that the public in general is much more aware now of PTSD, even though it is a clinical thing, and that we can talk about it, and most people understand now what we're talking about is a real thing. But what concerns me as veterans and as a human is that we tend to focus on the effects of PTSD on our soldiers and how can we heal our soldiers. And, who is thinking about the effects on the victims of the raft that our military has waged? And I'd like to see us, instead of worrying about healing our own people, I would like, this all points to how horrendous these things are that you've gone through. This is, to me, speaks to not how can we heal ourselves better, but how can we stop the goddamn wars that create this stuff in the first place. We need to be thinking of the people, the children in Afghanistan who've seen their parents blown up in front of their very eyes. What kind of treatment are they getting for their PTSD? How are they sleeping at night? So I hope we will expand our consciousness, and I know we're aware of that, but as a society, we don't seem to care about the people that are the victims of our aggression nearly as much as we care about our own. So, thank you.
Can I make a short comment on that important comment? The traumatic wound, you're right, and I'm with you. And let's extend our understanding and compassion, not in addition to those we have victimized and aggressed against, to the whole planet. The wound, you all know, the modern diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder was only put into the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual in 1980. And it's very much thanks to you and your witness and your activism and truth-telling after the Vietnam War, and also to the women's movement and the domestic violence and sexual abuse survivors who advocated endlessly. We are all suffering in the same way. So we've only renamed and reopened our awareness of this wound in the last 30 years. But now, around the world, not just human concern, but environmentalists and animal psychologists are also recognizing the same characteristic breakdown. So what we call PTSD has been diagnosed in elephants and wolves and bears and parrots and dogs and whales and dolphins. We are making war on the whole planet, and all of the living systems are breaking down in the same characteristic way. Elephants committing sexual abuse? Never before, but it's happening now. PTSD is the way any sensitive living creature is twisted out of shape by extraordinary violence to them and their environment. So absolutely we have to be concerned with every living hurt and realize that the traumatic wound is universal. It's wrapping the world, and perhaps we can be wise enough to respond to it as you're requesting and realize we're all in this suffering world together, and we have to extend our compassion and make change for every living being on the planet.
Hi, my name is Jim Murphy. I'm a Vietnam vet. I had the great fortune to go through a couple short workshops with Hai Shatan, who was left out. I think more than anyone, he may be most responsible for the 1980 re-inclusion of folks who became to be known as post-traumatic stress disorder. The issue with Hai was that he made it really clear to us that we were our own solution, that each one of us within ourselves are the only person. We are each the only people that can forgive ourselves and atone, that we use our brothers and sisters to help, but it's within us to forgive ourselves. And if he were here now, he would remind us there is no magic bullet, and that the formation of groups is just the beginning. Out of his one visit to DC, we had 6 groups. One group was heroin addicts, 4 of whom are still alive and doing fine, and 4 are dead. Shortly, heroin isn't necessarily a lifeline. So anyhow, I just want to say that One thing that's missing in the discussion that really could be here is that crossover to TBI. And that's because there seems to be not enough interplay between the psychological model and the TBI model. I've worked with Veteran Sanctuary, which is a beautiful collective of veterans in Trumansburg, New York. There's 8 guys, soon to be 10. They begin every morning by farming. They go to school in the afternoon. They support themselves. I stay out of their business other than I'm on their board. I help them raise money, and I do the alcohol and pot work on the guys that are over-ritualizing. I really want to remind people that they hold the key. They've been to 4, I think they've been through 4 programs now of different approaches to on the psychological model in terms of healing. They take a little bit from each one, but they realize that it's within themselves to cure themselves. Real quickly on the TBI is just to show you how confusing it can get. Is I worked with a guy who everybody assumed was just PTSD, and classic symptoms. If he was in a restaurant, his back would be against the wall. He got angry at his computer. Just things like that. He wouldn't go to a supermarket or a mall, and right away everyone said, well, that's PTSD, which certainly he has an issue with it. But the other side of it is, it's a vestibular disorder. Because when I heard about it, and I had some familiarity with it, I simply asked, when he's sitting with his back to the wall, is that up against the wall? It's that simple. If you want to diagnose somebody with TBI, that's especially visual, inner ear, take them to see the movie Avatar. If they start getting sick after the first 2 minutes, it's not PTSD. It's a visual dysfunction. It's visual palsy. So we have to be really careful to make sure that both things are treated, especially guys that can recall because of events.
Excellent point. Thanks for bringing that around. I think it's also relevant to other wars that we've been discussing too, reviewed by Ed historically. TBI has been with us as well, generation after generation after generation. As a Vietnam combat veteran, since TBI has become more prominent, I've really reflected a lot and had second thoughts about the way I conceptualize things, the way I respond to things, perhaps based on some of my own mild, undiagnosed TBI. Sir?
Yes, I was really, on the way out here, I was anxious to meet Jessica, and I got her book before I came and read it on the train coming out here. And all the stuff you talked about here and throughout the book, it was really extraordinary, and it really choked me up many times when I was reading it. But the thing that you're going to talk about here, and I was wondering if you could mention it, is what I thought was the overall thing of the book was the way you were treated as a woman in the Marines. And I remember Robin, I heard her speak, and she addressed that issue too, the abuse that she suffered. And that seemed like the main theme of your book almost, you know. And you didn't say anything about it. And I was wondering what effect you thought that had on your PTSD. Thank you.
Processing gender issues as a woman, honestly. So for me, I can talk about military affairs and I can talk about Iraq, and then I need to shift gears to talk about the gender issues. And certainly they're there, but I guess the reason why I wasn't mentioning that was because I was trying to focus more on the death. But certainly, in my platoon in Iraq, there was one more female there with me. Now I'm not sure why this is, but we never spoke. We never went to chow together. I struggle to remember her first name. And so it's different. I have a different experience of Iraq, I think, than the Marines, as their experience is slightly different than mine. I think I've been fortunate enough that in our culture, my gender has been stereotyped as being the one in touch with my feelings. And I think for that, it's easier for me to talk about my feelings than it is for the Marines in my platoon. Now, that may not be the case, but it may play a part. And so it's actually really interesting that as the female, I was able to write the book, and I'm able to talk about it. And I think that might have something, with the gender pressures of our society.
One thought that comes to mind just in response to that question, I too read a book recently and was quite moved. And there was a quote, I think by your professor, who gave you some support in writing the book, perhaps in the epilogue. He asked the question, Jessica, imagine that you're the mother of an 18-year-old son who wants to join the Marine Corps. What would you say? Do you remember that?
Now, I guess here's another point. I'm not the same person as I was when this story happened. And for me, it was easier to process the gender issues than the mortuary affairs issues. So at the end of the book, and my professor was asking me a question, and he says, what would you say to your daughter if your daughter wanted to enlist? And I said, no way. Now, he did ask me what I would tell my son. Now, for me, I said, I actually can't remember what he said to that, but I do know that for me it was easier to process the gender and to say, I don't want to be there as a female. It's something that I'm processing, and I'm not there yet, so.
Thank you very much. Sam Coleman from Orange County, Jim Brown Chapter 110, Chapter Secretary and Mascot. I have a question specifically for David Phillips, but it's also for all of us in a way. David, you're a member of an endangered species. Thanks to corporate concentration, Fox, and all of that kind of obscenity, you read people like Robert Chesney, University of Illinois, specialist in journalism. Our public information, public affairs in this country, journalism is in really sick shape. You're a member now of a very proud community, people like Josh LaCour. Some of you may know about his reporting in The Nation. Thanks to his reporting, Bob Philman called him before the Veterans Affairs Committee, where he would testify about the use of soldiers with TBI and how they're treated when they're on active duty. Or Aaron Lance, who broke news about veteran suicides in California. He's also the author of the book, The War Comes Home. But, like I said, you're a member of an endangered species. I wondered sometime how this fits into your career and how we can support you. We got people here from all across the country. And are there various kinds of local and media news sources that we can take advantage of to help educate the public about all these issues?
That's a large issue. Doing this type of stuff costs money, doesn't really make money. This book will never make any money. The publisher took a bath on it, and fortunately they were willing to do that. The same with the newspaper. This book is actually based on a series of investigative articles that changed the way that Fort Carson runs, that changes how they screen soldiers, how they treat soldiers, and that did go all the way up to the House Veterans Affairs Committee. So we have the ability to make change if we are able to have trained journalists who know how to distill and present the facts in a way that is both useful and compelling. But the newspaper that I published those articles in is literally in bankruptcy and has cut its staff in the 8 years that I worked there by half. Will we ever get to do stories like that again? I don't think any of us knows. The simple grassroots thing that people can do, I know that this almost sounds like a joke, is you subscribe to the newspaper. Even if you don't like it. Because there may be somebody there who's working on something that is really good. I can tell you, our newspaper is mediocre at best most days, but we do some important work and keep some people honest. How will it change the landscape? I think we all would love to know. But there's a lot of great things that have happened that have turned the media back over to normal people in the past. The fact that you can shoot a video and put it on the web for free for anyone in the world to see is amazing. Or do the same with a piece of writing, or with any type of video. That was never available before. How that'll shake out, I guess we'll see. It may be that the era of professional journalists is coming to an end, but citizen journalists who are really passionate all of a sudden have tools that we never dreamt of. We'll see how it shakes out.
This is sort of scary. My name is Maurice Wayne. I served in the U.S. Army. I was in Central America in '74 in El Salvador. And I want to thank you, Dr. Bob's on the TV show. But your name is Bob in the red shirt, is it? Ed. Dr. Ed. This is the first time I wanted to say that I'm a poster child for your book or books. I haven't read them, and this is the first time I heard about you. But I would say that I would be a poster child of your book. I was 17 years old. And I guess the short version, so I didn't encapsulate 30 years of being sick until a couple of moments, so I'll try to go right. It's difficult. Wherever, in my Army unit, I served on the 26-man assault team. Wherever we stood, we were gods. And I was 17 years old. The problem was, I guess, that 17 and 18-year-olds don't make good God decisions. They made a lot of bad choices. I think one of the things that has saved me that I sort of acted out of malice. But I served with people who would bite your head off and drink your blood if they could. And I said nothing because I was afraid that they would not protect me from the things that I could not see. So there was a lot of back and forth stuff going. But in spite of that, I lost my ex-wife, I lost my kids, I lost the children. But I've learned through this experience and the restorative justice and that sort of thing that love saved me. My ex-wife and 3 ex-girlfriends, as you can imagine, saved me wherever I fell in around the country of being crazy. Picked me up out of drug houses, off to the street, out of the gutters, from alcoholism, substance abuse. Psychiatrists ask me all the time, what's your drug of choice? I said, availability. Whatever you had available for me. I tried to talk to some psychiatrists and I tried to say this wasn't psychological to me, it wasn't emotional, this was something that happened inside my bones. I did not have repressive thoughts. I went into my actions and acted what I thought was correctly with my eyes wide open. I knew exactly what I was doing, but I thought I was doing what it took to be able to get us back home. My main objective was to come back home and come back with as many body parts as I showed up there with. But the end of the story is that I tiptoed out of 30 years and 10 years of homelessness, back and forth. I've been out of the hospital over 15 years, out of every freaking psychiatric hospital. You probably met me at one of your places, all over the country. And I tried to explain to them that it wasn't psychological, it was in my bones. And I tiptoed up on my condition to reading books like Sophocles, Homer, Shakespeare. That was the way I could address the issue and get there without hurting myself, by hearing the stories of others. I wasn't very good on group therapy unless it was in a protective, safe setting. In outpatient therapy, I call it bloodletting and tourniquet therapy, where you didn't have enough time to be able to, you ask people to cut themselves open, bleed all over the floor, emotionally or mentally, and then tie it up while the next person talked. You never had enough time to finish what you're doing. Because of that, the RAND Corporation says over 1,000 veterans have committed suicide in the care of the VA. I think this is because of the lack of safety net. You leaving those who are least exposed to it, able to take care of themselves, once open themselves up, and we end up with bad results that way. But love brought me back, Dr. Ed. I recently returned from Central America. I went back to Costa Rica recently with my school. My nightmares and flashbacks, if you would like to call them like that, are reoccurring. I dealt with
many of my personal demons and personal ghosts, and they're not demons anymore. I stopped fighting with them because that was a useless battle. After 30 years, you figure that out. But I began to start having conversations with my ghosts that came to me at night, one by one. And I began to ask them for their forgiveness. I asked them forgiveness for their family. I asked them for forgiveness of the future, of the loss of their families, and many times maybe even their bloodline, with their family. So I asked for forgiveness. But at the same time, I did not apologize for the results. What I did was try to say, look, we were on the same field of play. We all were playing by the same rules. I just happened to come out on the better end this day. So I couldn't apologize for that. So we came with some equal minds. So once I did all of that, then I went back to Central America, and I figured that I left it in a bad situation. I wanted to go back to leave it in a different way. So I figured if I could get those ghosts home, when you take lives, you bring those with you, and they want to go back. So I took them back to Central America. It wasn't El Salvador, but I figured if I could get them down that far, they could make it the rest of the way. And, I went back and I was able to reconcile. And I came to a conclusion that it was many years ago. I've had many lifetimes. I'm 55 years old now. I was 17 years old there. That I passed through different lifetimes, and that was different. It was a different time. And being able to forgive them, ask for their forgiveness, and be able to take them back home was most healing for me. I think, as you were saying here, and I'll finish up with this, I know 30 years is a long time, so give me a twist break. I have 3 major attempts at suicide. I think maybe the reason I didn't do it is that it would have been a disservice for them. Veterans leave themselves in sort of a rock and hard place. The pain is so terrible and so hard that you want to leave. But you know that those who did not come back home with you would have done anything to be in the position that you're in now, to be able to take another breath. But the pain is so hard that every breath hurts. It burns in your lungs, it burns in your soul, it burns in your bones, it hurts. It's like having a match up against you. But I found that I did jujitsu with this emotional sort of stuff that went on by working with other veterans, my homeless veterans, others who were suffering on the street, who had no help or support system. And that turned everything that I had, the volunteerism and going out in the street and being with them every day, just holding their hand or getting them to the VA or going to anywhere. So I suggested all of us, if you're looking for healing, volunteering and working with other veterans is the way to go. Because it turns those experiences that you didn't make, that you had struggled with, to make the road a little safer and easier for others is a healing aspect for you. It's not altruistic or doing a good deed and stuff. If I want to survive, I need to be able to get this out. I spent 13 months in a psychiatric hospital. That's a long time. And the doctor told me when I came out, was very smart, like very much like you, his name is Dr. Rizzo out of Chicago. He said there's 4 things that you got to do, 3 major. 1, don't confuse feeling better for being well. 2, don't fire your help. And 3, you're going to have to find a way to get it out. You're going to have to crap it out, cry it out, talk it out, feel it out. However you do it, you're going to have to find a way to get it out.
Thank you.
And I did that. But I think the key to what you were saying, and I'm finished with this, was love. I think that we can't give up on our veterans. I'm in school now. I'm on the dean's list every semester. I'm a double major in peace studies and labor studies. I'm all the things that everybody posted out there, everybody would have been afraid of. They got me to the hospital because for many veterans, it's hard to go back to the yard where the dog bit you. So you don't go back. 10 years, they found me naked in the bushes with a butcher knife right in the pocket body. That was my way into the VA. So, I'm sorry. There's also, I want to say thank you. You're right.
Traditional societies, which, as you said, among the Navajo and we're witnessing several traditional societies, they really do work. But the Right to Service Society is unified and raised with warrior traditions about full and total preparation and support of the warriors before, during, and after service. And they don't wait for a year or 2 years or 7 deployments, but immediately, as soon as the veteran comes home. And during traditional times, right after every battle, not accumulating warfare. So it's a very difficult challenge to transform our communities, but that's really what we need to do. A lot of my work is in consulting in communities or
mobilizing communities to really understand the full scope of what is necessary for veteran healing, and not just working directly with the vets, but working with the communities to take responsibility. So my organization is called Soldiers Heart. Just up the road a little north, there is a Soldiers Heart Seattle that is an affiliate with us, and they have been organizing community-based veteran events for 5 or 6 years now. They have regular veteran speak-outs, support groups, not just for veterans, but support groups for families, military families, for people who've been deployed. They've spoken with the politicians about veteran services in the community. They're on the streets working with the homeless veterans and the general homeless population. They have reading groups, they have library study programs, they have the entire community signing up to read the same important books, like my friend's books up here, and discussing them. They go into the colleges and high schools. They're in solidarity, as Veterans for Peace does, with other peace activists groups in the community, and make sure that veterans are always included in the concerns of any activist organization. There is so much that communities can do, even in a pluralistic society, to transform war healing. On my website, which is soldiersheart.net, if you go to my website, you go to resources. There's a very simple 2-page flyer called Transforming Our Communities to Heal Our Veterans. And there's a list of about 30 different things that non-professionals in any community can do without professional training and without liability insurance and without all of those concerns that actually block us from being community and caring for each other. But there are so many things we can do. We teach our communities and become activists in the community for what veterans need. Communities can be profoundly inspired to become more village-like and embrace their military people and their veterans effectively. So it's difficult in a pluralistic society, but truly can be done. So let's do it.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us this morning and sharing our experiences, impressions. We'll be around in the next few minutes before the next group starts at 10:30. Thank you.